Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. Real stories, brave voices, radiant perspectives. This is the podcast for parents and caregivers of autistic and neurodivergent children and teens. I'm your host, and each week we hold space for honest conversations, shared struggles, and hard-won victories from those who truly live it. You're not alone, your story matters, and it starts here. Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. I'm your host, Karla Chinen, and today we'll be speaking about starting school and what no one tells you about when you place your babies in special education. Today's guest is TeiYana Muse, a
Hello.
beautiful soul, and I'll turn it over to her so she could introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about her son.
Okay. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. My name is TeiYana Muse, proud mother of a 6-year-old by the name of Zakor. He has Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities. He is 6 years of age. He's a joy and he is something else. He is
Okay.
something else.
Oh, I've met that cutie pie.
Thank
And
you.
with that being said, I don't want to right into the emotional stuff, but just a lot of our mommies do share what were your thoughts that went through when you found out about his diagnosis and
Okay.
what you experienced before we get into the subject at hand.
Okay, great, great. Well, I was a probation correctional officer for 16 years, and when I found out I was pregnant, um, I was an older age at the time, and so my um, doctor wanted me to get further testing just to make sure that everything was okay because I was a high risk at my age. And so at 5 months, I found out through a blood test that my son had Down syndrome. So moving forward, it was very shocking, a lot of fear of the unknown. I was pressured to terminate. I was told that my son will never have a good quality of life. I have a good career. Why would I give up my career and have a child with a disability? I let them know firsthand that terminating was not an option. So I went on ahead and proceeded forward, and he is here today, and he's thriving. And sometimes I just want to go back to the doctors and say, see, look at him. Yes.
And that's like, I mean, we've advocated. I have a lot of mommies, I've had a few on that have spoken about their diagnosis journey, but they already had their baby. I can't
Hmm.
even imagine the emotions that you go through having to even start advocating without even having to deliver Sakura yet, and
Yes.
having to go through all those already emotions without even
Hmm.
have had that first contact with your baby. So I mean, I
Yes.
can't even imagine being in your situation and all the emotional, you know,
Hmm.
pain and
Yes.
processing that it took to go through all that.
Right, right. It was a roller coaster. A lot of anxiety, yes. Um, what helped me through is having the support of my grandmother, having the support of my dad. They were very encouraging, through the journey because once I did find out about the diagnosis and we
Mhm.
did further testing, we found out he had a left and right kidney defect. Found out he had a heart defect. So while he's in my wound, all these things are going on, and it's like, oh my
Wow.
goodness, you know. But he turned out perfectly fine.
Oh, and he is a gorgeous little boy.
Thank you so
Very
much.
handsome.
Thank
Um,
you.
and now let's fast forward to first day of school. First
Ooh.
of all, provide me what you had thought walking into that classroom, how that classroom was going to look, and the kind of support you felt you were going to get or that you did get, and then the reality of it. We
Okay.
don't have to obviously, for obvious reasons, name districts or any of that, but
Hmm.
just kind of a little broad information as to your perspective of things.
Okay. Well, he actually is in a somewhat known good district. for special needs. The actual school that he went to, he was assigned an autism class.
Mhm.
Um, the teachers were very warm, very caring. Um, the district, they were somewhat supportive. Because of some of the disabilities that he has, such as mobility, they did provide a one-on-one for safety. They didn't want him to fall because he used to walk with a push walker. He
Mhm.
also was a choking hazard. So to have a one-on-one in place, that made me feel comfortable, knowing that someone would be, watching over him.
Mhm.
However, through the journey, um, the one-on-ones were not equipped or trained properly to deal with my son. And how I found out was through the teachers and through the assistants. The teacher did her hardest to try to train the one on ones that came in, but they just weren't getting it. And she was kind of upset because she's like, this kid can really thrive, but you guys are sending me people that aren't doing their job. So, with that being said, we ended up finding out that the autism class was not a good placement for my son
Mhm.
because of the way that the class moves. My son is more of an explorer, he likes to explore.
Mhm.
So, we had him repeat pre K over again. And, but they wanted me to look at a different classroom setting. So I kind of looked like, I was like, okay. I was like, okay, look at a different classroom setting. They said, before you say anything, we just want you to go sit in the class and then we'll revene and talk. So this
Mhm.
was the teacher saying, this isn't the class setting for him. So moving forward, I went and sat in the classroom and it clicked because the classroom that they wanted him to be in, he's able to explore and learn and touch things and feel things. And it was just a good setting for him with his personality. So I agreed to have him be in that classroom. And that was a good thing. And they finally sent me a one on one who was really good. And she was actually contracted outside of the district.
So you mentioned that they brought someone with that was contracted to come in and assist. How did that work for you and for
It act
Sequoia?
it actually worked out perfect. She was well trained. She when he would go into therapy such as OT inside of school, P physical therapy, speech therapy, everything that he did in his therapies, she applied it to the classroom setting. She held him accountable. She pushed him. She didn't baby him. And she was just very nurturing and very loving. And she was just amazing. And the teacher was like, oh my goodness, this lady is amazing. Like she's well trained and she's just, but they ended up letting her go and bringing in their staff, who again wasn't trained. I tried to fight to keep this person because they were well rounded, but the district wouldn't let her stay because, again, she was contracted out. They had seniority, their staff in the district had seniority over anyone who was contracted.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eh,
So it was terrifying.
Yeah. And for example, when moments like that happen, how comfortable do you feel dropping off your kid out at school and
um,
not knowing how the staff is going to be able, like, what are your fears that go through your head, basically?
um, is he being pushed to the best of his ability? Is he being babied? Is he being held accountable? I'm the type of mother, I really try to push my son to be independent, and I do not baby him at all. I find that a lot of the staff is like, oh my God, he's so cute. Oh, he doesn't have to do it. Oh, he's crying, he's whining. No, he has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the person they ended up bringing in, um, she wasn't trained per se, but she would ask the teacher. She was teachable. She wanted to learn. She wanted
Mm-hmm.
to push him, and she would even talk to me sometimes and say, hey, I try to get him to do this or that, and he cries, and I feel bad. And I'm like, no, there's two different cries. There a cry like, I don't want to do it. And there's a cry like, I'm frustrated. I said, let's learn the difference. So I said, no, push him. So as time progressed, I saw how she really was invested in my son and she really started to push him
Mhm.
where he would roll his eyes at her. I said, I know that you're doing your job because he's rolling his eye. He has the meanest eye roll I have ever seen from a 6-year-old, and the fact that he's nonverbal, but he is able to express himself through gestures, and eye rolling is one of them. So she ended up stepping up to the plate. She's with him actually up until kind of now. We have some things going on, but
Mhm.
she was a blessing because I felt safe knowing that
Mhm.
he would be taken care of. There were even times where he would go to the bus to come home, and if he has a bowel movement, she'll tell the bus, hold on, let me go take him and change him. I don't want to send him on the bus like this. Things like that made me like, oh my gosh, I'm glad she cares,
She
you know.
cares.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's it kind of in a nutshell, but
Oh my God. And how do you see him also developing around his peers in school?
okay, well, he's in a severe classroom
Hmm.
setting. The reason I agree with him going to a severe is because he does have sensory issues, and that class caters to sensory needs. Um, but as far as socialization, a lot of the kids that are in his class, they are wheelchair bound, and he is able to walk. So when it comes to socialization, him as well as a couple of others that are able to walk, they go out, to play. But he's not really a social kid. He's kind of to himself. Um, we do find that if we're at a family function, for example, or one of my respite workers, she has older kids. If they're like 10 and older, he wants to hang with them. But kids his age, he does not like hanging with
That
kids, which
old
is,
soul.
yeah, it's like, wait a minute, you're gonna play with them, but you won't play with
Hmm.
people your age. He kind of looks at kids his age like, why are you over here?
Hmm.
But he's not really in like the social piece. He's not really a social kid
Yeah.
at all.
And then what about like, so you mentioned he's been getting services, he has a diagnosis. What are your thoughts on labels and the evaluations the school district has to kind of put the child through in order to provide those services? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I like to get the testing done so I can kind of better understand my son. But however, going through this journey, when they mentioned the severely handicapped class, I asked them, can I see other options? And I was told there is no other. Your son, he can't do this, he can't do that. I mean, I said, well, I sent you guys video footage of the different things that he can do because he will play it off like he doesn't know how to do anything. And he knows how to do a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that comes to them not pushing him. But, oh no, this is the best class for him. Um, the other classes are too advanced for him. And I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, okay. So just the district not hearing me, not um feeling my concerns, it kind of bothered me. However, I said, I want my son to be pushed more academically. Well, the teacher of the classroom he's in, he worked on academic goals for my son.
Mhm.
I was thankful for that because he listened to me
Mhm.
when we were in the IEP meeting because the district's like, well, this, that, this. Well, he can't be pushed academically because this and that. And just how they said it. And I'm just like, well, can we give him a chance? Because, well,
Yeah.
you sent me videos of this and that. But I mean, but the teacher listened and came up with science goals, math goals, and just different goals. And actually, this past week, my son got 4 awards
Oh.
in reading, in math. He's meeting the goals. They're really pushing him academically. And I was very thankful for the teacher because he's very seasoned. And again, he listens to the parents. Another thing I wanted to bring medically, My son has feeding issues. So drinking out of a sippy cup, we finally found one. He went through intensive feeding therapy through the hospital.
Mhm.
And he has problems with, drinking and out of a cup and, eating portion control.
Mhm.
And it's really crazy because I let the district know in the summer, I really need him to get water because, or even not even just the summer, I need him to get water. Bottle is something, he's not a bottle child, but to hydrate, sometimes we have to give him a bottle. He'll just hydrate and he'll toss it. But he doesn't cry for a bottle. So with that being said, the district's like, oh no, we're not bringing that in the classroom setting. And I'm like, okay, well, we have to come up with a plan because he needs water intake. Well, that teacher said, you know what? Let's do a water log. How much water do you want us to give him a day? And we'll do that. So the teacher again listened. The district was just like, oh no, we're not doing that. So it's just
And
like, ooh, I don't know if I expanded too much, but it's just
no,
like,
no,
ooh,
no,
it's a
no, no,
lot.
no. It
It's a lot.
it is a lot, and I think like from the water, or to who changes their diaper. I think these are thoughts that as a parent,
Hmm.
especially with a nonverbal child or a preverbal child, th- I mean, they can't tell you if something's happening or if they're
Hmm.
getting enough water or you see them coming out and their lips are cracked.
Hmm.
It's like, did you even have any water
Water
today?
today, yes.
So like that's amazing the fact that you incorporated those logs into
Hmm.
your IEP because as you know, if it's in the IEP, it has to be
Has to
followed
be.
through. So
Hmm.
how do you prep for IEPs?
Oh my goodness.
Like what does your morning before an IEP look like? Or what,
My
you know?
my anxiety's through the roof. Um, now that I work in the field of special needs, um, I know I have a voice now. At first, I didn't really realize I had a voice. So I'm really in tune to my child. So preparing him, I look at different options. I talk to my peers, such as yourself and other people, to get their feedback because you guys have been through this journey. So I research things for myself that I think will be good for my son. I also talk to my peers um, because I want to get all the information I can to make sure that he has a smooth day, a smooth school year. So just really gathering information. I'm like a sponge. I now have an advocate who is absolutely amazing, who I trust and who's passionate about my son or children, period. So that's another thing. Following her and teaming with her and going through the journey, I'm glad because I'm learning from her as well. So when other parents come to me, I can say, oh, well, I did this or I did that. I can't tell them what to do, but I can give them suggestions.
Mhm.
So that's how I do
So,
things.
so
Hmm.
with that being said, what do you wish you would have known prior to your first IEP?
That I have a voice, that I am an advocate for my son.
Beautiful.
Sometimes we as parents or caregivers, we just trust the district or trust people because they're professionals.
Hmm.
Hearing from them and getting their input, it's a good thing.
Hmm.
However, if you know what they're suggesting is not for your child, say it because it's your child. You know, um, I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything. I'm very open and optimistic, and I don't mind hearing their input. But one thing I will do is if I feel it's not a good fit, I will stand up and say, that's not a good fit. Let's look at some other options. Let's round table, let's look at other options, because I know my son, you know.
And, and what I've noticed from you throughout knowing you, these couple of years, I think you have such a beautiful approach, even with the school districts, even with the staff that helps you and
Hmm.
helps the core. And,
you've created this team around Sakura.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what the outcome is, like you say, you might have moments where you might not agree of the placement they stated that would be best for Sakura. But you
Mm-hmm.
as his mom, you're like, no, I know my son better.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs this more. You come at it with such friendliness, almost this optimistic view, which they
Right.
can't be mad at you.
Right. Right.
I don't even see you ever going into an IP and leaving, mad at them. You guys just come up with this teamwork, which I think it's amazing, for you to be
Mm-hmm.
able to. I think that's a lot of the misconception a lot of parents have that they
Mm-hmm.
go into these IEPs. And I understand. I've been there at times where you're like, oh my God, I need this for my kid. And why do I
Right.
have to do all this to get that? But
Right.
as you grow more experienced, you realize that's not the way to go about it. You
Yes.
really have to articulate it a certain way and
Mm-hmm.
present yourself a certain way and actually listen as well as not just give your input, but listen, and like you said,
Yes.
you're very open to listening. Give me options and then we'll come up with a solution together, you
Right.
know. But I
Right.
love that approach with you, and I can imagine how you know, it also reflects on how they treat your son because if
Mm-hmm.
if you're happy-go-lucky mom that yeah, you advocate, but with
Mm-hmm.
kindness, they're
Yes.
gonna treat your child with the same kindness you advocate with, and they'll look out for him even when you're not there you
Right.
know. So
Right.
so just to, end
Yes.
this podcast for today, what's one advice you would give to the parents?
Okay. It's two things I want to say really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
One is is it loud in the background? Oh my
No,
goodness.
no, no, you're
Okay.
good. You're good.
Okay. My little one just came in.
Oh no, don't
Well,
worry. He's
I want to
fine.
let parents know that when you're sitting down with the team at the IEP table, they're not your enemies. You know, don't go to war. You can disagree to agree, but don't go in warring with them because, like you said, you want to create a space where everyone, gets along, and two, advocate for your child. Advocate for your child. Do what's in the best interest of your child. Do not be afraid to speak up, because you want to provide a safe space for your child at all times. So don't be afraid, don't be intimidated. And it's okay sometimes if you're in an IEP meeting and it's overwhelming, it's sometimes to, hey, can I get a break? Can I get a breather? You know, if you have to. But just advocate for your child.
Amen to that.
Advocate for your child. Yes.
Well, thank you, TeiYana. I know you have a long day ahead of you today, and I appreciate you
Yes.
taking the time to talk to us and,
Okay.
be here and share your story. You'll most likely be on it again, sharing another, as your journey continues. But I
Okay.
do appreciate you being here with us, TeiYana,
Thank you.
and hope to, see you again soon. And
Yes.
but
And
thank you again.
okay, and thank you for all you do. Thank you for allowing us parents to have a voice. And thank you for sharing with other families and caregivers. So we all know that we're not going through it by ourselves, but just sharing the knowledge. I thank you for creating this platform for us families, and we appreciate you and what you
Well,
do in
thank you
your
very much.
organization. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiana. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Well, well, people, thank you very much for joining us today
Mhm.
to here in Voices Beyond the Spectrum. And I will see you again in 2 more weeks with a new topic at hand. And again, Tiana, thank you very much for everything.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
This episode of Voices Beyond the Spectrum was brought to you by Empathy for Autism California Inc., hosted by Karla Chinen. A special thanks to TeiYana Muse, a devoted mother and valued voice in our neurodivergent community. Music by Brad Khalid, and with piano by Sophia Chinen and Brad Khalid. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit us at www.empathyforautismcalifornia.com. Thanks for listening, where real stories and powerful perspectives come to life. Till next one.